Welcome to episode 2 of our look into the effects of solitary confinement and into the prisoners by way of meeting and listening to some of the prisoners of Red Onion, the SuperMax. If you haven't seen Dennis, make sure you do, as he's definitely showing these effects upon mental health of a prisoner. Now, let's get back to this guy. His name is Randall Via, and by all accounts sounds like a nice guy with strong values towards whānau and standing up to bullies, and that's what makes what he did to land him in prison seem really freaking crazy, because the crime that he did landed him in prison for a very, very, very long time. Well, just ask Randall.
Now I'm doing 1,214 years in the state of Virginia without parole. That's pretty much it.
But what he did and how he did it to get him sent to Red Onion, the prison within the prisons, kind of lets you know that underneath the pleasant chat lies a fucking psychopath.
Is extreme loneliness and boredom. That's the main thing, loneliness. You know, don't care how tough you are. I don't care how badass you are. You can Bruce Lee it up all day long. It gets to you, and it hurts like hell. You get to go outside on the rec cages, for an hour, a few days a week. So when you're in here, you're around hundreds of other guys. Inmates and the COs. But you walk alone. I come in the prison system, fighting, slinging ink, hustling, doing whatever.
And now we get to find out why young Randall here got sent to SuperMax.
So I'm in population, and my cellmate tells me, look, man, you got a guy going around telling his dudes that he's gonna rape me. He said he's gonna knock you out, he's gonna rape you. I said, okay, if I had a knife, I'd slit that boy's throat. He said, I'll make you one. We used to have cassette tapes back then. The plastic case around it? Took it, broke the stuff off, took a lighter, melted it, folded it in half. Did that with another one. Melted it together, we put 3 brand new razors in it and melted it in there.
You notice that, Randall here didn't actually say that he verified the story about what this guy had said in his plans and intentions, that Randall here may have been played, and then you think, well, so all it takes for this guy to go and try and kill or murder someone is you just got to say that someone said something about him, and that is why he's in SuperMax.
Next morning, we walk out, and he's crossed the yard. I walk up behind the dude, take my left hand, I wrap it, and I palm his face. Put my right knee in his lower back, and I stretch him back. I slit his throat from ear to ear. His friend said, oh my God, no. He dove like Superman and rolled up, jumped up, and ran across the yard. So when dude turned around, because it didn't really cut him deep, because cutting throats ain't easy, because you got all the ligaments and tendons in there. It's a lot tougher than people think it is.
Well, thank you for that tidbit of information there, Randall. If indeed any of us here are going to go and cut someone's throat, I'll remember you saying that it's a bit more difficult than what I would probably think about. Cheers.
But he bleeding like a stuck pig. So when he turns around, I just start catching him, beat the living hell out of him. They come run up on me, before they can tackle me and whatnot. I just step up, step back, because I done put the work in. They put the handcuffs on me, they take me, and they bring me up here.
Hey, look, it's Dennis. Dennis, make sure you see the other episode.
That show Bear Grylls? He does basically what I call survival camping. You know, he'll go out there with just, you know, a knife and the clothes on his back and pretty much nothing else, and he just lives off the land. I love that stuff. I grew up doing it. I lived in the woods. When I come home from school, I wasn't watching TV. I was out in the woods. You know, I would climb in trees and throwing myself down mountains and, you know, jumping off of cliffs and rock climbing. I love that stuff. I miss it.
You know, when you listen to him, he sounds like a good old boy that should be cruising around in a big orange car with Bo and Luke, but instead he's locked up for over 1,000 years. Where did it all go terribly fucking wrong?
And, you know, they got frosted glass on the window so we can't see out. Can't see trees or anything. Look, I got 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. So I'm in prison for the rest of my life. But I want to go home. I want to go home. That's all I want. I want to go home. You know, you ask a lot of these dudes, man, if they can go home, what do they want? Oh, they want cars, they want houses, they want all these girls and Kim Kardashian and screw all that. I just want a good job. I'd love to have a wife, a couple of kids, and a dog. That's all I want out of life.
And, you know, I think that the guy he murdered, he probably wanted that too.
That's all I ever want. I screwed up. I ain't blaming my parents or whatever. I did what I did. I accept responsibility for it. And if I got to spend the rest of my life in prison, then I'm going to suck it up and deal with it. That's the only thing I can do. Either that or kill myself, and I'm too much of a coward to kill myself. Even though you can talk to other dudes on a vent, eventually you get some smart-ass punk. It's just a matter of time before he starts running his mouth. It's just a matter of time before he starts calling you a snitch and a faggot and all these other things, you know, cussing you out. They'll get to banging on the wall while you're trying to sleep. And you want to get to them because they won't let up. And they'll bang 7, 8 months at a time. And you got the lights on all day long. There's no switches on the lights. And you're just stuck in that cell. And it drives you crazy. I'm 35 now. And basically from the time I was 11 years old, I've been incarcerated. I've only spent maybe 1.5 years on the street. When I was 10 years old, my dad left my mom. So me and my brother, we went back and forth between my dad and my mom, and neither one of them wanted us. So they put us up, you know, in the foster system.
What you'll notice with Randall's stories is that the underlying theme is that in his stories, Randall always seems to come off justifying what he did in a way which makes him the righteous one to be violent. Another term for that would be he's an antisocial narcissist who is really good at camping.
So there was like a 17-year-old foster kid there, and he started bullying my brother. So I grabbed a pool cue and just started wailing on him with it and beat him down. And, you know, so I got kicked out of there and I went to a group home.
The bottoms of your feet.
So one day, this place had banana splits. I'd never had none. Even to this day, I've never had one, but I always wanted one. You know, that was like the quintessential thing as a child, as a banana split. And the dude there wouldn't give it to me. I got mad. I'm gonna kill myself if you don't. Oh, I don't think you will. You ain't got it in you. So I grabbed the fork and I shoved it through my wrist. I was about maybe 11 at the time. It took me to the hospital. You know, got kicked out, went to another foster home. Started getting in trouble. I stole a car, got busted, and I go to juvie. You go to juvenile prison in Virginia, you fight every day. You know, and I did several years there. And that doesn't mean I've won every fight. I've gotten my ass whooped more times than I've won. But they don't call it gladiator school for nothing. So I make my way out, and I was living with my grandma at the time. And I tried to join the Army, but they told me that I had to be 6 months off parole and probation before I could join. Got a job working electricity in Charlottesville. That was fun, because I've always been good with my hands. And my grandma needed a stove. Hers was falling apart. So for Christmas, I go and I get it, put a little down payment on it. But I got fired. And now I can't make the payments. There's no way in hell I'm gonna let them come repossess my grandma's stove. I'm like, man, you know what? Screw it. I can't get a job.
No, Randall, you had a job, and by the sound of it, it was a good job. And instead of saying, thank God I have a job, when a lot of people wouldn't have employed me and been able to pay my way and rent at Grandma's house, you decided to do something that got you fired and threw all of that away. And that, mate, is because you're a fucking genius. And such a genius that the next thing that you decided to do is the very reason why nobody would want you as a fucking neighbor.
I know what I'm good at. I break in the house, steal a couple guns. I steal a brand new 97 Subaru Legacy station wagon. And I steal a bunch of other stuff. I got a gun. Got bullets for the gun. I'm headed up Interstate 29, 120 miles per hour in a station wagon.
In a stolen station wagon, trying to make sure that he doesn't call any undue attention to himself.
I'm getting it.
Driving as fast as he can to make another down payment on that stove, of course.
I'm like 19 years old. And the car's almost out of gas. I pull into the store, I fill up. I don't got no money on me. So I walk in, I grab a Coke. I walk up to the store owner. I just put a gun in his face and give me your money. So he pulls the money out of his wallet and he gives it to me. Open the cash register, give me the money. He opens it. I said, man, take the money out and give it to me. He said, no. I said, man, if you don't, I'm going to kill you.
The chances of any of this story being true from Randall here is about fucking zero.
He looked me square in the eyes and he said, young man, I don't think you will. I shot him in the chest. He fell behind the counter. I reached over, shot him twice in the back. I walked down the counter, walked back up, and I stood over top of him and I shot him 6 more times in the back of the head. Took the money and I left. But I want to go home. I want to go home. That's all I want. I want to go home. I killed a man. Should I have lost my life for the act I did? I took that man's life. I took him away from his wife, from his children, from his grandchildren. I took him away from his business. Who knows what happened to his family after he lost his store and lost his job? There's so many consequences that could have came from my actions. I took that man's life.
For me to listen to that and to think, well, maybe Randall here has reflected upon what he's done and he's seen and learnt the error of his ways. For me to believe, just reasonably believe that all of that has happened, it would be much more believable if Randall here had actually remembered the man's name.
Am I being punished enough? In my opinion, no, not even close. But 7-8 years of segregation isn't working. Because all it does is make you angry. It makes you more frustrated. All it's doing is turning us into caged animals.
And that is about the only thing I agree with this clown.
Life ain't worth it without hope. What's the point of having a life if you're just existing? I'm tired, I'm frustrated, and I'm a little bit weak. Borderline depression, so to speak. You know, I think every human deals with it, regardless of where you're at.
And how do you deal with it?
Fantasizing, you know, just about going to different places. You know, I create entire landscapes in my mind. You know, I have that ability to where I can close my eyes. I can actually paint it. I can actually see it. I can actually walk through it. Sort of like a 3D model on a computer. I pretty much do it every day. I'll cross my hands behind my back and I'll just close my eyes. You know, I just will it to exist, and then I'm able to step into it. Sometimes it's childhood places that I've been, you know, like the woods when I was growing up. When it got too bad at home, I would just take off into the woods. In the woods, I was comfortable, I was safe. I didn't have to worry about getting the hell beat out of me. When you're walking through the forest, you know, climbing up the mountains, you know, and you feel the sponginess of the pine needles underneath your feet, you know, the branches, you know, brushing up against your clothes, the fresh air, you hear the squirrels chittering at you because you're invading their territory, the birds swooping around your head.
Having sex with a dead goat.
You know peace. You know contentment. You know that this right here is what God created this world to be. He didn't create it for violence. He didn't create it for strife. He didn't create it for murder, rape, robbery, you know, lies and deceit and trickery.
Yeah, all the shit that this guy does.
He didn't create it for all that. When you're out there in the forest by yourself, you know, and you're 20, 30 miles away from the closest person as far as you know, you get a true glimpse of what Eden was. You know, you get a true glimpse of what life is supposed to be. You know, it's your own little personal utopia. You know, it's a perfect environment. You know, it's the one place
where there are no people to rob and murder.
Where I was happy.
So that was Randall. He's not one of the 90% that will end up as your neighbour, and he's not an onion anymore. Where is he? Well, he's locked up in a place called Wallens Ridge State Prison, which isn't really any better. What I think is interesting is that these guys are the prisoners that prisons say shouldn't be around other prisoners, and when you hear what they say and do, you kind of see why. And the crazy thing is that this is them on their best behaviour. So, if you liked it, leave us a like. And if there's enough likes, I'll introduce you to another possible neighbour of yours who's living it up, like James and the Giant Peach, except in an onion. All is, stay safe. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.